Everybody would have been showed y'all crazy by now. I ain't crazy. I got a sound mind. Everybody can see I've been very calm through it all. There was times that I went off, but they felt my pain and my struggle. So James had brought me back to the apartment, and he had me and see how my mind can catch up right back to what I was saying at the reiterator. I'm not slow. He brought me back to the apartment, and they was trying to keep just the air mattress in there to try to make it seem like I was some just bum prostitute he found off the street, or so they could get rid of the evidence. I don't know. But they didn't want me to have a bed in the house so that people could know that I had actually been living there. So HPD had also conspired with Lily Morris and them to have me out on the street so the white supremacists and the white police could get me, because I had been living there for months and I had my bedroom set up, and you cannot legally just make somebody leave. This is what they told me when Austin Matter was in my house. They said I could not make him leave after 72 hours, but they was telling me that I had to get out of Lily Morris's home after her and Bianca tried to jump me in the house. And they was like, for your safety, they was like, we can't legally just make you leave somewhere where you've been living. They was like, but for your safety, we think it's good for you to go for the night. So I just left with Marcus, and we started staying in his truck. And then, like, after that, the Holy Spirit was warning me, don't even try to go back to Lily Moore's house, because she trying to set you up on a whole nother level, and they trying to get them people to come and get you or do something to you, and you need to just stay away from her, period. And I was like, cool. Like, I just won't even go back. I had my whole bedroom set, like everything there. I had been living there. So, but when I was at James Harris' house before that, he didn't want me to have a mattress, and I see why, because they didn't want to set it up like I had actually been living wherever I was living. So whenever they try to paint you out to be a mental patient, and then they come in the house and look around, it look like you ain't even been living there. Like, it just look like you on a little air mattress or whatever. It's easy to set somebody up. Like, they ain't even really been living there, because Lily Morris was trying to say that I had not been living at her house. And I got all the proof that I had been living in Lily Morris's home. And I'll show y'all that too. So let me see. I need to show y'all the evidence of me actually having lived in Lily Morris's home. And there was something else that I wanted to leave at the end of the video as well. But, oh yeah, how LaMarcus Sanders was treating me. A little clip of how after the gangs had swarmed around me all that day, and I was crying and I couldn't take no more, and I was talking about his charges and what he was doing. And I was crying about it. There was other stuff too. I put out everything that I can, but when HPD showed up, first of all, the HPD, the 911 operator, was trying to make it seem like I was a mental patient, and they stopped allowing me to be able to call 911. This how much they was doing to me, that if I called 911, they had blocked me from being able to call 911 from my phone anymore. Because Lily Morris and Bianca was trying to jump me in the house. And they kept trying to make excuses like, oh, she left and came back or whatever. But they stole my ID where I couldn't get back into the shelter. And I knew my rights. I had been living there. And I knew I needed to get my stuff out of that house and not to let me run me out. And LaMarcus had asked me to come back. And he was like, everything was cool. And when I came back, he was gone. And it was a setup for her and Bianca to jump me, because the first time Bianca tried to fight me, and she went and tried to wake up Lily to fight me too. And I left. I hurried up and left, and I was calling them out. They gang members, they this and that. And then I walked over 60-something miles to get to the Salvation Army, and then they was talking about they needed to test me for COVID, and I ain't had no ID, and they wouldn't let me in. So then I had to walk way back. And when I was like, I'm gonna file a police report. But I had already decided to call the police. And I remember I was on the phone with 911 when I was in my room, and my bed was in there, my mirror. I had gotten rid of my clothes and stuff, but I still had stuff in there. And then Lily Morris came in the room and tried to attack me in the room. And I said, you need to stay within arm's reach away from me. LaMarcus had told me to come back. And he and Boo was gone. And then Lily Morris came in there trying to fight me, and I called 911, and she was trying to make it seem like, oh, this is my house, but this was the whole plot. They had been trying to fight me in the house, and I wasn't doing nothing. Bianca was trying to fight me. Charles Cross was trying to hit me. LaMarcus was trying to fight me, and they all knew that I'm pregnant, and they wanted to kill my little baby in my belly so that white people could cover all this up. And people was getting cars, they was getting gift cards, they was getting money, they was getting houses. Her sister even was saying like she had something to do with it. I mean, it was ridiculous. And so they had to I had been started showing my stomach and showing my baby moving, and they was trying to hurry up and kill it immediately. And Lily Morris was up in the room trying to fight me her goddamn self, and I had a knife in my bag, and I was like, I didn't show it to her, but I was on the phone, and I had put my hand in my bag in case she ran up, because I was gonna poke her ass, because, bitch, you know that I'm pregnant, and you know that you're a part of this conspiracy to have me murdered in this country, and you know I'm pregnant. I don't give a fuck. But I was on the phone with 911, and I was like, ma'am, I need an officer right away, because I was in the room and she was blocking me, and Bianca was by the doorway in the living room. Bianca was in the living room, and she was threatening to jump me, and Lily Morris had come into the room where I had been living after LaMarcus had led me into a trap to come back. When the Salvation Army didn't take me, I came back like LaMarcus asked me to, but he left and led me into a trap for Lily to come and try to jump me in the room. And she came in the room, and I was by the bed facing the door, and she was in front of the door, and she tried to attack me. And I had the knife because Bianca had tried to fight me, and I had to get the knife. And then I was on the phone with the 911, and the 911 operator was like, hearing Lily, bitch, I don't give a fuck, I better beat your ass. And I said, you better stay within. I said, ma'am, you need to stay within arm's reach from me. And the 911 operator was hearing both of them try to say, oh, we finna beat your asshole and all of this. How the fuck you hear them threatening somebody who calmly asking you, can you please send the officer? They're trying to attack me. They're trying to jump me. And she's over here trying to take up for the people who tried to jump me on the phone. And the police was already doing this, and I already know what's involved. I already know what's going on. The police are involved with trying to have me murdered. They're involved with trying to cover up my pregnancy. We all know about the racist police. We all know about the women who've been killed in this country. And we know that the 911 operators don't give a damn about us, because they didn't expose none of the 911 calls. 19 911 calls from 13 different locations of Austin Metter attacking me, and people calling and reporting him, and me reporting the Cairo police. And none of those 911 calls was represented to the court, not one. So I know how the 911 operators operate. I called reporting the Conroe police for profiling me, and they was trying to say, oh, the police don't do that. And I said, I got proof. And then they tried to kill me because I had the proof that they were doing this. I had been filming them doing this, and I called 911 again. And I said, if something happens to me, I want to record. I want it on record that the Conroe police had something to do with it. And they would not bring none of the calls forward about these 911 calls. And so I was on the phone with the 911 operator, and I was like, I'm finna leave out of the house while Lily Morris and Bianca was trying to jump me. And then I said, she was like, you been living there? I said, yes. And I'm finna, and she was like, stand in front of the house and wait for the police. The police didn't show up for like 3 hours. They never showed up. And Bianca, I kept calling 911 over and over again to make the report, because, they were trying to have gang members fight me and then have me left on the streets. And I had not made any 911 calls about it. So I needed to report that there were gang members involved, that they were conspiring to have me murdered in this country. So I did. And they didn't want to take the reports. And the 911 operator was like, well, if you don't wait for the police, then he's not going to make the report. And I said, ma'am, I cannot wait right here where they're trying to jump me. There was nowhere for me to wait in the area, because they were in the area surrounding and swarming around me in the area. And then they were following me wherever I went. So it was important for me to get away from the house. But Bianca tried to run me from the house, because I said, I need to make the report right now from this house, because I've been living here. Just like I made the report at Beverly Raoul's house, where I had been living at Beverly Raoul's house when James pulled the gun out on me. I made the report right from that apartment complex because I had been living there. And if that's my home and someone attacking me where I have made it my home, and you attacking me and pulling out guns on where I've been living, I got the right to make the report right there. And I knew that if I make the report from somewhere else, then they not gonna charge Bianca. So I made the report. I had to come back and make the report because Bianca had ran me off with a stick. I was on the phone with the 911 operator, and her and Lily was still trying to provoke me, like, you dirty prostitute, we finna come beat your asshole and all of this. And I'm standing in front of the house like the 911 operator told me. And so I walked down the street by the stop sign to wait for the police there, since they were acting like they still was going to come out to fight me when I was standing there waiting for the police. And Bianca went and grabbed a stick out of the house, and she started running down the street towards me where I was waiting for the police officer. And I had got on the phone with 911 again, and I said, you guys need to hurry because they are trying to jump me. And this is what the police were trying to get them to do, to try to have me outside on the streets so they could try to pay me out to be a prostitute, a drug addict, and have me killed on the streets or arrested and killed in a facility. So I was on the phone with them several times telling them they needed to come on, and they still kept procrastinating and not showing up. And her and Charles Cross, Lily Morris and Charles Cross, continued to fight one another before all of this happened, to try to have the police come over there. So they kept trying to stage altercations to bring the police into the situation. They were trying to fight me and LaMarcus. They tried to fight LaMarcus. So it was always trying to bring violence and stuff, anything to try to make the police have to come. And if you do learn about Yvette Smith was killed when males were fighting, and the police showed up about males fighting, and then they told Yvette Smith to come out of the house. And when Yvette Smith came out the house, the police officer immediately shot Yvette Smith. And then there was something about a lawsuit or something about that. But this was a similar situation where they were just trying to create anything for the police to come, and the only person who the police really wanted was me. And they didn't have a reason to come for me, so they were trying to create reasons for the police to come. And Bianca had theft charges and CPS cases, and Lily Morris had CPS cases, and Charles Cross had warrants, and LaMarcus had warrants, and they all had records. And this is why they were using criminals to help them do this, as well as racist people to help them do this. And so Bianca came up to me with the stick, a big old stick, trying to beat me with the stick. While I was down the street waiting for the police, where I had to go by the stop sign because the lady was telling me to wait for the police in front of the house. But Bianca was still trying to fight me in front of the house. And mind you, I'm pregnant, and they don't want nobody to know I'm pregnant, so the police don't care about leaving me out on the streets and then having girls fight me. So they wasn't really trying to show up. And then so I walked down the street, and I called the 911 operator and said, well, I have to wait by the stop sign because the women are still threatening to come and harm me while I'm standing and waiting for the police in front of the house. So she was like, okay, just stand right there. And then Bianca went in the house and said, bitch, I got something for you. And then she came out with the stick, and she started coming to him. I'm finna beat the fuck out you with this stick, hoe. And then she started coming my way, and I was like, Bianca, do not come near me with that stick. And she kept coming. And so I pulled out the knife out of my purse, and I said, Bianca, if you come any closer to me with that knife, I said, you are dead. I said, I will kill you. And then so she went back into the house. She turned away with the stick and went back into the house. But at first, she was coming to beat me with it. And then it was a big old black stick, very big black stick. And she was big and burly, and I'm very tiny. And, there was no, and I'm pregnant. And then so Charles Cross hurried up and pulled up, because him and LaMarcus left me there to be jumped. In the first video where Bianca was trying to fight me, LaMarcus left me in there for her to fight me after he had been provoking me in the room, trying to start stuff with me in the room. So I had came out of the room in the living room like, hell no, let me get my stuff and get up out of here. And then Bianca was trying to fight me in the living room. So it was all this setup, and him and Bianca was riding off, leaving together and whispering and plotting. And then he was coming back, and then they was starting stuff, and they all was leaving at the same time and going and plotting. And then the man with the gun across the street. So this was a whole setup to have me killed, and they wanted to do it without anybody being incriminated who was involved. So while I was at James Harris' house, Beverly Raoul was plotting to have me out of her house with my suitcase so that the gang members could swarm around me and see who could pick me up with my suitcase. And they did, and they were trying to rape me and beat me and do all kind of stuff, several different people. And then I did a live journal about who all was involved, and I'll try to post that on my Facebook and see how much information I can get out about these criminals who have been involved. And I really don't care about anybody saying I'm defaming them, because they should not have done this, and this can all be proven that they were involved and that they have done these crimes against me and my children, me and my pregnancy. And so then after that, when I was at the Wilcox, but this was before LaMarcus, but this was how I met LaMarcus. While I was at the Wilcox, James called me and said he was recording a conversation to try to get his charges dropped. Once I got to the apartment, I figured out he was recording it. And he had apologized to me about pulling the gun out on me and said he was wrong and he was sorry. And then they were trying to get me to spend up all my money that I had left. And then he was trying to put me out on the streets and trying to stage altercations with me inside of the apartment at the Wilcox. And he was trying to record it and trying to make it out to me to be a mental patient while he was doing little evil stuff off the camera to me, just very wicked things. And then I remember he was supposedly making up with me, like kept making up with me. And then I was lying down in the bed asleep, and the Holy Spirit came over me and he started praying over me in tongues. God was praying over me. So it was nothing like the women in the church or anybody who you hear praying in tongues. God was doing it. And it was like another, like a Hebrew. It was like, I don't know, it was like another language, and it was God. And then I wanted to know what he had said, and he interpreted it for me. And he said, may the traps that they set for me, may they fall into themselves. He was saying that the traps that they set for me, that they will fall into. And he showed me fiery traps stacked up on top of each other. And they was like animal traps. So if you ever seen the Jungle, how the hunters or poachers would set these traps for an animal, and the animal would just step into it and be caught, and then the hunter would come and grab the animal out of the trap. These were the type of traps God showed me, but they were set on fire, and it was almost symbolized as demonic and Satanism traps, and they were stacked on top of each other. So if you ever seen a rat trap for mice, and then you got one stacked on top of that one, and then one facing that one stacked on top of that one, and one facing that one stacked on top of it. So it was like wherever I stepped, I would be in a trap. So, and God felt like it was so serious for him to come over and pray over me in James' house. And he put the fear of God in me. He let me know to be afraid, not to be sitting there laying down all comfortable on that air mattress in that apartment after he pulled that gun out on me and brought me back. And God was letting me know that he was setting me up, and I didn't need to just be laying there because I was asleep peacefully, like he had been having sex with me. And I was laying there like all peacefully asleep, and God came over me like, ooh, like you in a trap. And he started doing stuff to me in the house, and I was crying and making videos, and I didn't know what was going on. And God showed me that they were trying to have me run out the house and have my dead body out there the next day. But then he was showing me that there was deeper traps because I didn't leave in the middle of the night, like he was trying to put me out in the middle of the night, and I didn't leave in the middle of the night. And he was getting on the phone with people and going and calling people and then leaving and having secret meetings, and they were setting it up to where if I left him, that all these men would come after me with money, and they'll be trying to pick me up, knowing that I didn't have nowhere to go. So being that I didn't have anywhere to go, my family left me out there. I didn't have nobody. Whoever picked me up would have to be whoever I went with, because I didn't have nowhere else to go. And that James would do stuff to run me out the house, and he was I'll be in the house. He'd be like, oh, my brother and them coming over here, and my family don't need you to over here because I put a gun on you in this protective order. He would try to do all kind of stuff to make me leave the house. And then he even locked me outside one time when I left during the day, and I tried to come back during the day. And we were supposedly on good terms again, and then he called me the next day telling me I could come back home, and he didn't mean to leave me outside all night. And I had spent the night with LaMarcus because I had met LaMarcus, and I did, go to LaMarcus' house one time when James was trying to argue with me, and I just spent the day over there with him. And Charles Cross was there, and Pumpkin, his sister, and Kiki. And I was like just, chilling during the day, and it was just LaMarcus there the first time. And then they and Pumpkin and Charles Cross, and they brought me back to James' house. Because I had met LaMarcus one night. I had went for a walk because James was provoking me in the home. And I was like, I need to go for a walk to think about how I can get financially independent from James because he's being evil. And so that's when LaMarcus pulled up on me. And but it was several men that pulled up on me first, trying to get me to hurry up and get in the car with them, and I said no. And then when I met LaMarcus, he wanted to give me the ride to the store, and I said yeah. And I told him my situation. I need to get financially independent again, because people are trying to abuse me. And he seemed like a cool guy, and I got his number, but I never went with him that night. And then James was provoking me in the house and doing stuff, and I called LaMarcus one day and was like, can you come and get me? And he had came and got me, and we just spent the day together, and then I had him drop me back off at home. And then James was going to have a secret meetings, and LaMarcus was telling me the first day that I came to spend time with him at the house at Charles Cross. No, it wasn't at Charles Cross house. It was at Kiki's house at Kings Row, and Charles Cross was there. He came with Lulu and Journey, his two little girls, and he had said that it was nice to meet me and everything like that. He was real cool at first. And then I had my Bible, and LaMarcus was trying to tell me he was from the church. His family had, well, he didn't say he was from the church, but he said his family was in church and that he knew something about a gun. He was like, oh, I know somebody, and she gonna have to kill her boyfriend in the house. And James was trying to get me to fight him, and I'm pregnant, and I couldn't. So if I was to have fought James, I would have had to kill him. And then we was talking about his gun charge, and LaMarcus was talking to me like he knew about the gun charge, and like he knew that James was trying to do anything that he could to keep from having the gun charge, from pulling the gun out on me, even if that meant killing me, or having me killed, so that he didn't have to get in trouble for pulling out the gun on me. And then, but he was speaking subliminally, as if he didn't know about it. And I knew that he knew about it, and I knew that he was involved, but I knew that I had no choice but to deal with LaMarcus because I didn't have anybody, and everybody that they kept sending to me was involved. And so James continued to do things to me to try to cause me to cry and scream, and things to try to make me look crazy in the apartment. And this was after Jehovah and Jesus Christ came over me praying and said that they had laid traps for me that were deadly traps. And he didn't show me who they were, but he showed me that I would escape during the night. And I did escape during the night. As you guys could see on some of my videos where I was trying to get away. It was nighttime while they were doing this stuff to me, and the Lord showed me having to hide and get away, and I did. And it's still very dangerous for me. And so basically, LaMarcus had picked me up because I called him one day when James was just really acting like he would physically harm me in the home. I was afraid, and he was doing just too much. And I needed to go for, it was during the day, I needed to go for a little while because he was in there having me pulling out my hair and crying and everything. And there were people in the apartment complex, and there was a leasing woman that was involved. And there were people set up in the apartments around me involved, and he knew. And he was setting me up this way. And I called LaMarcus to come and get me just to get away from the situation, because I wasn't entirely sure that LaMarcus was involved to hurt me, because I knew that he knew what was going on, or he knew something about what was going on with the James situation, but I didn't know how much he knew, or if he would be on my side or not. And then I went with him, and James left, and James knew I would be back. and knew that we were still together, but he conspired to leave me outside all night, and I had already asked LaMarcus could I spend the night. LaMarcus was like, yeah. And then the next day, James, he wasn't answering the phone when I tried to get back in the house, and I had on a little black mini dress, and he would have left me outside the apartment late at night with a little black mini dress on. And so I stayed the night with LaMarcus. And then basically James called me the next day saying I could come back to the house, that he forgot his phone somewhere, just lying. And I didn't want to go back because James was driving me crazy in the house, and I knew what he was doing, and I didn't want to go back. And then LaMarcus was doing the same thing, and trying to drive me crazy, but I was a little stronger from what happened with James, and I knew that these were the traps that they had set was for whatever man picked me up to try to drive me crazy or pay me out to be crazy in the house. And they know that I pretty much know, and people have tried to start arguments and altercations with me, and they continue to do the same thing. And this is why God, like, somebody needs to come and get us, because they just keep on trying to do it. And no matter where we go, people have been involved. And God was like, well, what they're trying to do now is just have black men listen to everything that I'm saying, and that they had tried to provoke a situation with other females, with black women, to try to make me go off and be yelling and all of that. But pretty much I'm just staying stumped down with the fact that I'm trying to just get us some help and get us out of here, instead of stooping to the level of arguing. And then there's more to the interpretation about the bumps that they were going over in the food that I had gotten from certain places. So I can't go into all that detail right now, but when I get the chance, I will. But James Harris was trying to set me up at the Wilcox in the apartment complex, and he had gotten on my page several times, trying to lie and say I didn't want my kids and that I was lazy, and saying that the doctor said I wasn't pregnant, and he was showing his colors, and I blocked him. I think I blocked him off from being able to comment, and if he does, I'm gonna block him again. And he wants to try to threaten me, talking about if I mention his name on my page again, he gonna get me for defamation because he was involved. And he is involved, and I'm telling. And it's serious. You don't do that to somebody's life. And I don't know how many times they have done this before, but I believe that they have done this to young black women before, that these people conspiring against me. It's been several hundreds of thousands of people doing it. So I believe that they have done this to black women before, young black women. And I feel for my sisters who may not have the strength that I do, but I know God's strength is made perfect in all of our weakness. So I know there are survivors out there who can testify that I'm telling the truth to the operations that they're doing on us in America, and that there are black men and women involved, family, that there are establishments involved, whites, Hispanics, Indian, every race of people you can imagine. They got people down with them from every race in this world. And I know that there are women who could testify that I'm telling the truth. And I know that I feel like, God forbid, but I feel like because of how tactical these operations are, being that they are tied into military operatives, with military operations, I believe being taught to civilians and criminals, they are very well versed. They could keep very close communication with one another through intellectual spying on the victim, and then they will keep communications within one another. They do a lot of skits, and if you know anything about Hollywood, you know how they do the movies and all of that. They do actual skits all around the victim the entire time. Everything is a skit. Nothing is real. Nobody's real. Everything is a skit. It's all made up to play the victim, to get the victim to trust somebody who is a handler and who is trying to handle the person to their death, and their demise. And they try to say anything they can to discredit the victim, and they need to get somebody close to you to try to discredit you. Well, so they'll have to be around you for a little while to try to discredit you. They do demonic seances and rituals and visitations to try to discredit you mentally. They mess with your food and things like that. They try to break down your body. So they try to keep you very weak and down and vulnerable. They have the entire medical department involved so that they could try to do whatever they want to do to your body and get away with any type of harm that they have done to you physically. And then they try to have people in these facilities where they can abduct people, kidnap children, kill and murder people in the facilities and having them shipped to unknown locations. They can do and torture people like war prisoners in the facilities. They take away all your rights. They have all the lawyers and law firms involved. They have the black politicians involved to stay quiet and not come out and help the victim or speak on any of the issues involving a particular victim that they want dead in the society, to keep the status quo of believing that black people actually have rights in this country. We do have rights in the Most High, but they don't want us to have any rights. And I feel for any victims that they may have killed successfully, because I was able to see the traps and the way that they operate and expose a lot of it, and also get out of a lot of the traps. And I did file a police report on Bianca Hudson, and she was charged with terroristic threat. And James Devon Harris was also charged with terroristic threat. And they were trying to get me arrested, and here they are with so-called charges because I showed the videos to the police. And so, being that the police are involved, they don't really want to charge these people. And this is one big crazy conspiracy. I'm tired. It's a nightmare. And now the people want to try to say that I did something to them that warranted them to be able to threaten me like that. And I didn't, because they were provoking me and doing things the entire time, the whole time. So I just pray that Lord, I pray that your prayer come true over my life. Because they are so cocky, they are so confident, they got jobs and cars, and because of the wealth that they can get out of the society and the affiliations that they have, it's almost as if they will never be caught or they will never be brought down, because there's so many people involved. It's rich people involved. It's white people involved. It's politicians involved. It's government representatives involved. I mean, the president knows what's going on. So these people really feel like, she's going down and we're going to get away with this. And I just pray that the very close people who are involved, that they do not get away with it. I know the focus is more so on getting Austin John Matter convicted for attacking me in the first place while pregnant with my small child and making me have to pull out a gun and shoot him. But I feel that